Hi everybody, so today we're going to be talking about the arteries of the upper extremity. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to draw my heart right here. And if you notice, this is pretty small simply because of the fact that we're not going to be talking about the heart much in this video. Now if you recall though that we have the aorta that's going to come off of the left ventricle and then it's going to go this way. And then you may recall that the first artery to come off of the aorta or off of the aortic arch is going to be my brachiocephalic artery, which is also known as the brachiocephalic trunk. Then I'm going to have my left common carotid artery, and then I'm going to have my left subclavian artery. Okay, and then coming off of there, I'm going to have my vertebral artery that's going to go up, but we're not going to be dealing with that. So now, here's what's going to happen is I'm going to have this brachiocephalic trunk or brachiocephalic artery, and then coming off of here, I'm going to have my right common carotid artery coming off of this. Now what's going to happen is after this right common carotid artery, this is now going to be known as my right subclavian artery. So this is my right subclavian. And after this point here, everything I have here is going to be the same as you see over here. I'm just going to be writing it on this side. So now we're going to have this right subclavian artery, and it's going to be coming here right under the clavicle. And what it's going to do is when we get to the end of that first rib that you see, what's going to happen is this is now going to be called our axillary artery. So I'm just going to draw a little line right here. And now we've got the axillary artery, which is going to be over here. So this is our axillary artery. And remember, axillary is basically your armpit. Okay, so that's going to be our armpit. That's right there. And so now, here's what's going to happen, is the axillary artery is now going to start heading down into the arm. So we're going to go right through the armpit here, and it's going to start coming down this way. Now, as you know, in here, we actually have something called the scapula, which is our shoulder blade, right? And this is going to be our scapula. And coming off the scapula, we have the teres major muscle. So this is our teres major muscle. It's going to come off the bottom of the scapula, and it's going to go this way to the humerus. Now, I'm not drawing the humerus, but the humerus is going to be right here. Remember, the humerus is your arm bone. The inferior, well, let's write this first. So this is my teres major muscle right here. And then if we look on the inferior portion of this teres major muscle, when this axillary artery passes that, it's now going to be called my brachial artery. So this is now going to be the brachial artery. Okay, so there's our brachial artery right there. So now what's going to happen, so now we're right about here, right? We're starting to come into this area right in here. Now what's going to happen is I am going to have an artery that's going to come off this brachial artery, and it's going to go posterior. Okay, so this is going to be, I'm going to draw it with a dotted line to represent going posterior, and we're going to call this our deep. This is going to be our deep brachial artery. That's the deep brachial artery right there. And then we still have the brachial right here. What's going to happen now is coming off this deep brachial artery, I'm going to have another artery that's going to come. And we're going to call this our humeral nutrient artery. The humeral nutrient artery or branch is going to supply blood to the humerus, which is our arm bone. So it's going to supply blood to the humerus. The next thing that's going to come off of here is what we're going to call our deltoid artery. I'm going to use a different color here just to distinguish this. This is going to be our deltoid artery. Although I usually use blue for veins, I'm just using blue right now just to make it easier to tell the difference here. And obviously my deltoid branch of this is going to supply blood to the deltoid muscle. So this is going to be this right here, okay? And that's going to be right there. So now, what's going to happen now is we're going to have this deep brachial artery, and my deep brachial artery is going to bifurcate. And so if you recall, the term bifurcate means it's going to split into two. So I'm going to have a portion that's going to come out over here, and then I'm going to have a portion that's going to come this way, okay? And then this is going to be called my radial collateral artery. That's the radial collateral artery. And then I have this portion that's in here, and I'm going to call this the middle collateral artery. And I'm going to actually use a different color for this too. Let's go with purple, and just to make it easier to distinguish what this is. So this is going to be my middle collateral artery is going to be right there. So now I have my radial collateral artery, and I have my middle collateral artery right there. We'll come back to these in just a minute. So now, if we take a look here, this is going to be my brachial artery that's still coming down like this. Okay? Remember, these are basically supplying blood. This one's going to come anterior, but they're basically supplying blood to the back of the arm. That's what the deep brachial artery does. My brachial artery's here, and coming off my brachial artery, I am going to have something that is called the superior ulnar collateral artery. Okay, that's going to be my superior ulnar collateral artery. And then what's going to happen is when I'm about 5 centimeters above the elbow, so about 2 inches above the elbow, I'm going to have another artery come off of here, and we are going to call this the inferior ulnar collateral artery. Okay, and that's going to be this right here. So now I've got my two arteries over here, on the lateral portion, right? I got my middle collateral, and I have my radial collateral, and then I have my inferior ulnar collateral, and I have my superior ulnar collateral. Now, coming off this inferior ulnar collateral, I'm going to have a branch that's going to come over, and it's going to join this middle collateral artery. This right here is where my elbow is. This is the elbow that's going to be right here, and we're going to see that in just a minute. Now, here's what's going to happen is I have my brachial artery still. My brachial artery is going to go just past the elbow, right about to the head of the radius, and it's going to bifurcate. And it's going to bifurcate into the ulnar artery. And remember, this is medial, or to make it easier to remember, it's on the side of your pinky. And then I'm going to have the radial artery, which is on this side, which is lateral, or on the side of your thumb. And this is going to come out like this, okay? And this is going to be my radial artery. So now we're getting to the forearm here, right? This is the elbow here. This is going to be my arm, and this is my shoulder. So now we're coming into the shoulder. Into the forearm. So now, here's what's going to happen. Is coming off this radial artery that's right here, we are going to have another artery that's going to come back, and it's going to go basically superior. And it's going to meet, it's going to anastomose with this radial collateral artery. We're going to call this one right here the radial recurrent artery. Let's use a different color again. So this is going to be my radial recurrent artery. And that's going to be this guy right here. And it's going to form an anastomose with this right here. This is going to happen on or anterior to the lateral epicondyle. So this right here is anterior to the lateral epicondyle. Okay, so that's going to be right there. Now, over here, what's going to happen is I am going to have another artery that's going to come out. I'm going to move this back just a little bit to make it a little bit easier. And I'm going to have an artery that's going to come out of here, and we are going to call this the anterior ulnar recurrent artery. So this is my anterior ulnar recurrent artery, and it's going to anastomose with the inferior ulnar collateral. Then, coming off from here, I'm going to have my posterior ulnar recurrent artery. Okay, so now that's going to be right here. Now remember, this is on the medial side, so we're actually looking like right in here, but on the right arm, right? You can actually feel the epicondyle there, right? So even though I'm using my left arm, it would be the same. This is my right, but I'm showing you on my left. So this is going to occur anterior to the medial epicondyle. And then this one, let's use this ugly brown color. This one is going to occur posterior to the medial epicondyle. Okay, so now you can see, so this is actually still behind here. So if we were to look at it like this, where you see this that's going on right here is going to be right here. This is where my anterior ulnar recurrent artery is going to be. My inferior ulnar collateral artery is going to be like right here, and then the other part's going to take place right behind this, right back in here. So now, if we continue down, oh, there's one more that I forgot. So let's use green here. If we continue down, or if we coming also off of this ulnar artery, I'm going to have another artery. And we're going to call this the common interosseous artery. So this is my common interosseous artery right here. Common interosseous artery that's right here. And then it's going to bifurcate. There's actually a membrane in here that's called the interosseous membrane. It's between your radius and ulna. You also have another one between your tibia and your fibula. And so what's going to happen is this is going to bifurcate. So now I'm going to have an anterior interosseous artery. So this is my anterior interosseous artery, and then I'm going to have a posterior interosseous artery. So this is going to be my posterior interosseous artery is going to be this green right here. So this is it right here, coming down. So now, coming off this posterior interosseous artery, I am going to have another artery that's going to come off of here, and it's going to go up, and it's going to anastomose with this medial collateral artery that's right here. So these are going to anastomose there. So now, these are going to continue down, and the posterior interosseous artery and the anterior interosseous artery are actually going to come together again. And then what they're going to do, well, we'll come back to that in just a minute. So basically now I'm starting to get to the wrist area. So this is basically my forearm that I've kind of scrunched in right here. This is going to come down, and then this is going to come down. And what's going to happen now is I am going to have, these are going to come together. You're coming off the ulnar artery, you're actually going to have some arteries come together, and they're going to form the superficial palmar artery is going to be right there. And if you notice, this is going to come over here, and it's going to anastomose with the radial artery. And then coming off of my radial artery, I'm going to have something called the deep palmar artery right there, and it's going to come around. And now this is deep. So when I say superficial means it's going to be like on this side. It's going to be closer to the palm. When I say it's deep, it's going to be closer to the back of the hand. So this is going to come around here, and then over here, this is the deep palmar artery of the radial artery. I'm going to just put RA for radial artery, and then over here I'm going to have a deep palmar artery of the ulnar artery. UA stands for ulnar artery. So this is now going to come and form onto there. So they're going to make a little circle that goes around there. Then coming off of here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to call these the digital arteries. And the digital arteries are basically going to go into the fingers. Okay? The palmar arteries are obviously going to supply blood to the palm and to the hands. Right? These are going to supply it to the finger. The one last thing I have here is coming off of here, I'm going to have a carpal artery coming off the radius, and I'm going to have another one coming off the ulna, and they're going to meet to form what we call the dorsal carpal arch, and then this interosseous artery is going to meet up with that. So that's it for the arteries of the upper extremity. So if you like the video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm going to leave this up here for a minute.